Buenas tardes. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming after lunch to our session on edge computing. I've had the pleasure of spending the last 14, 15 months working on edge computing here at VMware. And then it'll be my 11th anniversary at VMware this January. So I've had the privilege of being able to switch roles, started off in EUC and presented to you guys many, many years ago on Horizon and VDI. And now I get to talk about edge computing. So my name is Marilyn Basanta. I do all of the product management for our edge computing product and platform here at VMware. And I will have my guest speaker come and join us to talk a little bit about some of the new innovations we're doing on the device edge. But for now, I'm going to go over just some of the background on how VMware defines the edge, our solutions for edge computing, and then opportunities with having you guys be design partners for some of our products, and also from a partnership perspective. Okay, so of course the required disclaimer. We'll see what things end up when they actually ship. All right, but the overall story of the edge. So it's interesting, when I talk about the edge, that word means a lot of things to a lot of different people. So as I was saying, for today, I'm going to be focused more on our enterprise edge solutions rather than our service provider edge solutions or our network edge solutions. But what's really driving the need for compute at the edge? Some people say to me, oh, has an edge compute already existed at stores and retailers? And I'll say, yes, of course it has. But now it's all about the transformation of the new use cases, the new workloads, the new type of experiences that your customers or you as business operations are expecting in your different verticals that provide the different use cases that are really enabling this resurgence of computing at the edge. So if you see, a lot of these are about revolutionizing manufacturing, being able to better do operations for disconnected oil and gas, real-time experiences in the store. During COVID, retailers had to quickly adapt to curbside pickup and self-checkout, and in manufacturing, we had, the global supply crisis. So how do we help manufacturers kind of revolutionize and better optimize all their experiences? And so the top spending in edge is really across verticals. So it's really across retail, manufacturing, power utility, fulfillment. And what makes the edge unique, which I like to reminisce, it reminds me of my beginning career here with Horizon, is that if you think of VDI, and if you think of the edge, we have to have a proper platform, but what makes it real is the full end-to-end vertical solution. So that's the piece what I love about edge, the fact that not only do I get to engineer a proper product platform for the edge, but the fact that we get to work with our vertical partners and vertical customers and really provide that end-to-end solution on top of the platform. So I'll talk a little bit more about the different aspects of edge and how it all comes together and how we define the edge. So if you think of what I said earlier, the fact that we already had some stores, some type of edges already had some compute there. So this is, we see the revolution happening with the different hardware providers. People like Lenovo, HP, Dell are all coming out with new, smaller form factor hardware, ruggedized hardware, with connectivity, optimized for the edge and the edge conditions. We also see, of course, that some work, everyone had the transformation from client-server architecture to the cloud. We see, of course, like I was saying, these workloads are moving to the edge. And the hyperscalers are also becoming aware that data has to be processed and consumed at the edge. So they also are bringing their own solutions to the edge. Then from a network side of the house, you see all of the different CDN providers, POP providers, trying to also do very quick analysis and computations at the near edge. And then we ourselves, with our SaaS product, also have POPs, and in the future we can also provide compute services on our POPs. We have the service providers, who I see kind of being a channel for the edge computing platform, so they can then service provide and provide a managed edge compute offering. And then what's really driving this transformation in those use cases that I was talking about, that I'll touch a little bit deeper on, is all of the OT. So these are all of the people who run the line of business applications. These typically are, a different persona in the company. So us, VMware, we're the experts at talking to IT. And now in Edge, we have to become experts at talking to the line of business application holders and really have them all and the customer come together so we can provide that end-to-end solution. So the Edge ends up, like I was saying, defined differently to each person, and it's really the convergence of all of these things coming together to provide that end-to-end solution. And so going back to the OT, so the OT is everything that you can kind of touch. It's the operational technology. It's that new category that really focuses on the physical devices and the processes, and that's where, going back from my picture of all the different areas, this is really where the OT workloads are coming together with the IT workloads, like I was talking about, for the comprehensive new experiences at the edge. Okay. And just a little bit around how we define the edge. We like using the terms near edge and far edge here at VMware. I think it kind of aligns to what the industry and the analysts are all saying. So how we see the edge is really going down the sizing. So we have, of course, our private cloud, data center offerings, going down to the near edge, which is more of the POPs, CDNs, that type of, and then going down to the far edge is what I'll focus on my presentation on today. So retail stores, manufacturing, the actual end location where the edge computing will be located. Okay. So now some of the interesting stuff that makes, like I said, this taking edge computing more, fun and making it something very real and tangible. So for retailers, so I was already talking about retailers now when you go into a store, this is a silly example, but sometimes you want to go into the store and you know exactly what you need and you want to get out very quickly, right? We all have this urgent need now to need our experience. We want our experiences now. I want to be delighted now. I want to do it quickly as possible. And so that immersive retailing, so when you go in, you can now go into the Apple store, of course, and scan something, and you can even walk out. You can just do the self-checkout yourself. So enabling these type of scenarios in retail, doing the customized experience, giving a real-time experience, and for the retailer, so what's the benefit? For the customer, the benefit is I'm having that experience now, right? I'm being delighted now, I'm having that better shopping experience, I can check out and leave very quickly. But how does that help the retailer? So from a retailer perspective, being able to do these new use cases, on the other side, they get to collect the metrics and they get to optimize some of the business operations. They get to have less people on the floor. They get to maybe do more business because with less people. And I'll cover that with retail in a little bit later. For manufacturing, what's super interesting about manufacturing is that in manufacturing, we're even getting to the point of just virtualizing new things in manufacturing that we couldn't virtualize before to really provide a software-defined manufacturing experience across all the different use cases, and I'll cover that in more depth. This is very adjacent to automotive. If you guys saw in the keynote or in one of the earlier sessions, Audi is one of the customers that we have announced. And so Audi is looking to completely software define all of their different factories to run on our edge compute platform. And then energy. If you think of all of the energy crisis that's happening on the world, how do we make our energy production more productive? How do we ensure that there are no outages? And so there's a lot of different real-time requirements across all of these verticals that our edge compute platform can handle, and that really is what's giving us the ability to drive new use cases across these verticals. And I'll talk a little bit about that too. Okay. To go a little bit more in depth around manufacturing that I was talking about. So right now, I was talking about the line of business application buyers, in a company or users in a company. So when manufacturers go and they say, oh, I want to do predictive computer vision, I want to do predictive maintenance use case. What typically happens now is that they buy a brand new physical set of hardware and that gets deployed out, and it's a whole separate system. And a lot of the manufacturing systems, like we said, are very physical today. So if you think of all of the hardware sprawl that you have to do to enable each of these different use cases, this also means that these systems aren't connected. So how can you get proper real-time response if these are all separate systems managed differently, sometimes by different teams, some of them by the OT teams, some of them by the IT teams? How do you bring all of this together? So this is what we're proposing and what we're testing out with people like Audi and our other manufacturing customers, is that if you look at the different types of workloads, and I can explain what some of these are. So the PLCs are the programmable logic boards. We've got computer vision. They're the OT scenarios with the sensors. So like I said, if each of these are all separate systems, so just the idea that you can consolidate this on an edge computing platform that can handle all the real-time requirements of these different applications, really you can see the benefits of not only the traditional benefits you get from virtualizing, being able to do rollbacks, be able to do updates, but being able to then, like I said, connect all these systems together to be able to give this immersive experience. And I'll give a concrete customer example. Oh, and then of course, leaving room for all of your future applications as well. So let me showcase this. This is a demo that we put together with Intel. And so I would say this, before I watch the video, how I'll set the scene is when you see this kind of in action, in the old world, this used to be 3 or 4 different physical systems that we've now consolidated onto one very small, I would say, I don't know, 12, like this, sorry, a very small box. How about that? So let me play this. There we go. Perfect. So in this demo, what you're seeing is a few different things. There is a camera underneath the monitor that's watching the line, so it's doing the analysis in real time for the robot to respond to. So we have computer vision, we have inferencing, we have the PLCs, as, you know, those are the logic boards that are controlling the conveyor belts, and we've got also the actual robot application. So as I was saying before, in the old way, these are all separate systems, and in the new way, you have one consolidated box platform. I think it's a 6-core box with GPU pass-through. It's doing GPU with the Intel CPU. And now you have a consolidated platform that's doing a connected closed-loop feedback system. And you can, of course, apply this to all the different types of things and use cases in manufacturing. Great. And I'll say one other thing that I had talked about with real-time. So we introduced the real-time functionality around the end of last year, and our real-time functionality in vSphere was first developed for the telco use case. So this is really for the RAN, like for the deploying the new 5G networks, and of course for that they need very deterministic latency. What that really means here is we have to make sure if you're running your critical production systems, like the robot that was running, you have to make sure that that latency is the same every time, right? Because the moment it's off by even just a little bit, you might have ruined product quality, or it also, in the cases of, if there's human interaction, we're getting into situations where it could be a safety issue. So what we've really done at VMware with the initial learnings that we did to optimize for the telco use cases, we've taken that over the last year and applied it to edge computing use cases, so that way we can do things like help transform and really do software-defined manufacturing. Okay, and then the case of retailer, I kind of talked about this earlier with the customers want the instant experiences, but what are the benefits of the business? And so if you look at, there's just so many different use cases that can be deployed in a store as well as in the fulfillment. And so it's just touching upon a few of them, but essentially it's the same concept, right? As by having a consolidated edge platform, then you can actually not only deploy things that'll help you give you better business optimization or analysis, or in the cases of retail, doing loss prevention, fraud detection, but it then can help you actually deploy some of the more fun use cases around improving that customer experience. Okay. All right, so I wanted to talk about the different challenges at the edge and what makes these new workloads a little bit different from what you traditionally deploy in your data center and your cloud. So as I was kind of talking about before, we had client-server architecture, traditional VMware data center technology, and then, then became the cloud, and everyone moved all their applications to the public cloud. And so now, in order to do all of these real-time experiences, you have to think about the fact that if you had your application running in the cloud and you have the sensors happening in the store, how much time, not only do you have the bandwidth costs of getting that data up to the cloud to run your application, by the time you have done the inferencing in the cloud and the data goes back out to the store, the real-time experience is already gone. So you have to think of how do you design your applications differently to handle that at the edge. And so these are some of the different attributes. So first, what I was talking about is you can't just take an application that you may have written with, I don't know, an Amazon function or a Google function and move it back to the edge. You have to think about how you're going to redesign your application model for the edge. And I know I keep talking about the world real time, but you have to think of stateful. So we all went to stateless architectures. But now for the edge, I think you have to go back to a stateful architecture. For that same scenario that I was saying, if you have a screwdriver that's turning a bolt and the system goes down, you have to make sure that the application you've written can vary in a sense of restart, or you have to stop it for safety. Your application has to come back and restore that state exactly where it is, and that's very critical. So you have to think of how how your developers are going to have to redesign your applications for the edge. The other part of it is resiliency. So when you deploy an application, even your data center or in your public cloud, if a server goes down, it self-heals and deploys out horizontally, vertically. It can do whatever it needs to do to run at the type of load and scale that you need in your use case. But at the edge, that server could go down. Your application has to properly be able to come back up and running, and it has to be, of course, sized appropriately. It also has to scale. So how you design, again, the same thing, an application for the cloud. How do you design an application to run not just in a few places, but thousands of places, and always, again, work and be deployed and updated and managed? So it's a different approach of how we deploy applications at the edge. That leads me, same thing as management. How do we properly do fleet management for these type of applications and deployments at the edge? And security. So security here, I actually mean a few different things. I don't just mean a traditional, your application and your data has to be secure, but I also mean physical security. So if you have our favorite coffee shop around the corner that has got computing, it's literally might just be right here underneath the desk. Someone could walk up to it and walk away with it. So how do you make sure if someone walks away with it, the data is secure? So your application developers need to think about the different ways to take advantage of the security features in our software platform, but also maybe take advantage of the TPM chips that are available in the different hardware to secure that application on the box itself. Okay. And then I know I talked about in the last slide more of the application challenges for the edge, but now I'm talking more about I would say the human challenges or the platform challenges we're solving in terms of, our edge deployments get very small, and in a little bit I'll talk about the different offerings and the different sizings we can go down to, but most typically, these are 1 host, 2 hosts, maybe 3 hosts, right? In the 1 host scenario, you don't have resiliency. You don't have a lot of storage. So it's how do you have to think of an edge site as something that can be thrown away. So how, again, you design your applications. You have to make it very easy for someone to send a new box to the store, get it up and running, and our Edge Compute Stack platform has to be ready to go, apps deployed without much intervention. There's also the consideration of there's limited network. Most of even manufacturing that might have better connectivity within the manufacturing plant itself. If you think of your retailers, most of these guys have, I would say on average, I hear 25 megabytes, and I say that's a good connection. I have some customers in the US who still tell me they have still DSL T1 lines, what's that, 1.5 megs connections. And so our edge platform really has to work on that very low bandwidth, or in many cases, no bandwidth, so it has to be autonomous. I already talked a little bit about the management at scale. So this is something that, as we've been working on improving the product over the last year, is we have to really think of VMware knows how to manage, again, very large data centers. But think of how many customers around the world have more than 100 data centers. It's not many. Whereas here, how many retailers have thousands of stores? We've got 6,000, 4,000. So how do you manage that? How do we deploy to that? And then, of course, the last thing is doing all this with limited IT. So it has to be able to, it's a kind of a contradiction. I just said it has to not only be autonomous, where you might have to run this with no connectivity, and when the connectivity comes back, then hopefully push all of your updates, but then also do this with limited IT. So how do you then make sure that it's easy enough for someone who's just the barista in the store to be able to restart that box, or have that box automatically call home and have those apps all come back up and running? So it's a lot of different, that's been the fun and challenging part of doing our edge compute platform, is having to think of all of these different things and different problems that we have to solve with our software platform. Okay, so then that brings me to Edge Compute Stack. So this is the product offering we announced when we entered the market last year. It's been almost exactly a year, actually it has been a year, and this year we announced the 2.0. But what we've really done at VMware is taken what I say the best parts of VMware, our vSphere platform, our Kubernetes platform, and edge optimized it. And that's really what we've been focusing on. I would say we spent the last year shrinking the stack. We like to joke with the Honey, I Shrunk the kids movie, so Honey, I Shrunk the Stack. And then really then focus on, of course, on working on helping modernize applications, provide the real-time experiences. And now we're really focused on this next year is how do I make it super easy to deploy, super easy to manage, and continuing on our journey to optimize the platform. I won't spend too much time on the reference architecture, but in general, we want to have, central management, and we want to have the edge sites be what is our deployed out. We typically want to have, vCenter up in the cloud, and just have the least amount of software possible at the edge, as I said, shrunken down, because you want to, there's limited hardware, there's limited compute, there's limited bandwidth. We want to be able to provide everything we need for the platform with the smallest amount of infrastructure. So like I said, that's a lot of the work that we've been doing from a product perspective. If you want a bigger deep dive on the reference architecture, there's the recorded session from the US, but there's actually, I have it at the last slide. We have two meet the experts with our reference architecture solution architects that are here, and we're happy to go over this in more in depth of the different types of deployment architectures. And we should have a proper reference architecture published on the website over the next few weeks as well. So it's all based on the functionality, but it's a different platform. So this is definitely focused on our enterprise platform. I know for the telco, we've got TCA and those pieces. We're not using those pieces here. We're using the proper enterprise offering, just optimized for the edge. But what I was trying to say earlier is we learned a lot from our telco offerings and deployments, and use those learnings to then apply it to Edge Compute Stack. Okay, so I already touched a little bit about Audi and how they're really taking it and consolidating, everything that they have on the factory shop floor. And like I said, this is a new area for us. Our technology now lets us get into areas in manufacturing that we weren't there before. But I want to talk a little bit about JBS. So JBS is a food company, and they have deployed Edge Compute Stack with GPU sharing. And what they do is they've got a conveyor belt, they've got the meat going down the conveyor belt, they have a worker like me, I can take the meat, I will take the meat off the bone, put it back on the conveyor belt, and computer vision in real time is inferencing and checking to see if I've left any meat on that bone. If I have left meat on it, then further down the line, a PLC changes the conveyor belt to come around and put that meat back on the line for someone else to do a better job the next time. So the nice thing about this is we're doing real-time inferencing, real-time decision-making. It's a closed-loop system, and it is also improving sustainability. So the other thing about this is the fact that they've implemented this on a particular processing line. This use case basically has paid for itself. I won't share the exact numbers, of course, but they have proven out the proper cost savings that this one use case gives them, and can then implement additional consolidation across the factory, additional use case. They can maybe do predictive maintenance. Like I said, that conveyor belt moves, so maybe they know that after 10,000 moves, that conveyor belt's gonna need maintenance. So then they can start giving those type of other responsive experiences in the factory that help improve operations. Okay, and then I already talked a little bit about Audi. Like I said, how they're doing it is, I would say they're probably one of retailers. They definitely are one of our most advanced retailers to the level of consolidation they want to do. And we're really excited to kind of help them transform on a journey with them as we really help do the same thing like we're talking about JBS, but of course on a massive scale on the different shops that they have in the factory for car production. Okay, so what's new in Edge Compute Stack 2.0? The 2.0 is what we've announced in the US, and what have we added on from already said, we shrunk the stack. So we've improved all of our GPU pass-through, and we're working on continued GPU enhancements, not only to vSphere, but to TKG, to be able to do things like computer vision and inferencing. We've improved some of the density for real-time workloads. So of course, same thing, you can get more workloads on our Edge platform. And we've really, in the shrinking, we've made a lot of improvements in TKG to really optimize it for the Edge. And I know it says coming in future, but actually it's coming now for betas and POCs, we announced a partnership with a company called ZEDEDA that we're OEMing and really getting down to device edge. And this gets us to smaller footprint hardware, it gets us to non-x86 hardware, to core processors, and it opens up different use cases for us that we can complement on our platform. Okay, so to cover like what those use cases are, actually I'm gonna skip this slide if that's okay. I'll go right here. Okay, so the enterprise edge is everything that I've been talking about based on our vSphere platform, shrinking the stack, all of those bits that I've talked about here. The network edge, I'll still touch upon that a little bit. This is something we announced last year. It was a joint project that we did with the Office of the CTO that then got graduated into the business unit, and we're still developing. But this is really taking advantage of our edge optimized Kubernetes platform, putting it on our SD-WAN box to help you containerize perhaps like adjacent network functions and take advantage of your current SD-WAN footprint. It, of course, leverages things like the SD-WAN VCO, so you automatically get zero-touch provisioning, ease of deployment. And so then the device edge is what I just talked about. So it gets us to the smaller hardware, but really takes advantage of the OT scenarios, IoT scenarios. Think of all the sensors in the stores. So the nice thing about that is this is based on something called EVOS, and EVOS is an open source item or software. And what's nice about that is EVOS in past, instead of us having to manage the actual IoT devices themselves, what we're really managing is the gateway and the platform. And what's really important is helping you get your workloads onto that platform. We're taking advantage of the data that comes out of those sensors. Because again, it goes back to the key buzzword that I keep saying, real time. And to provide real time, you need data. And then you need data, and you need compute, and you need applications to really then churn out that experience and that action. So, right, so the enterprise edge is more for, like we said, retail, factory, server room, shop floor, those power substation. The network edge is based on the SD-WAN footprint, so maybe smaller kiosks and all the places that you, of course, have SD-WAN. And then for device edge, it really gets us down to that IoT gateway scenario, machine edge, field equipment, and it's really also meant for untrusted network type of scenarios. And we'll have our guests here talk a little bit more about that. So with that, I will stop talking for a few minutes, give myself a break, and introduce Michael Pearl. So Michael Pearl is our VP of Global Sales at ZEDEDA, and he'll talk a little bit about the benefits there. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. All right, good afternoon, everybody. I only have 3 slides, so I will make it quick but exciting, and look forward to having any questions at the end as well. But great job, Marilyn. Thank you. And so I think that we might call it a little different. Rather than the far edge, we call it the distributed edge, but when we talk about it, it's the same thing. Connecting things that are high scale, remote, ruggedized, all over the place. And it's really about the business value you can derive from that. So as I talk about it, I mean, what's really changed? I think at one point, everyone wanted to be able to take data and send it to the cloud and make sense of it in the cloud. How do you understand data at the cloud? What can you do with it? Maybe change algorithms and push those back down to devices and to the machinery. That scenario doesn't work very well at scale. There's a lot of things that fall apart there, and you lose some of the momentum and the importance of why are you getting the data anyway. So I think, overall, data gravity is this concept of where do you need the data? It's pulling the data back to the machines. Compute needs to happen close to where the machines are so you can derive benefits from that. You can actually change processes. You can update those machines easier. You can build a better, more efficient system. It's all about that. So today, there's this fundamental shift right now in what's happening. The cloud doesn't go away. It's still important. A lot of the data needs to go there, but it doesn't all have to go there. Compute has to happen down at the machines, down at this device edge. And that's what's changing. And even the devices themselves sometimes need to be able to communicate. They need to know what's going on. They need to talk within the data center. They need to talk to multiple clouds. All of these are shifting, and even the analysts like Gartner see what's changing in the industry, how much more compute and workloads are actually happening, and the applications are being driven down to these edge devices. And some of them are reasonably powerful. Some are just IoT gateways. Some are lightweight servers. Some are clusters. So things have really changed, and I think this is this fundamental shift, and one of the reasons why we partner with VMware is how do you deliver this, but how do you deliver in a seamless way where you have all these different types of edges, and you have to be able to communicate, but you want one place to be able to orchestrate it and manage it. And that's, I think, the piece that we focus on at ZEDEDA that's really important. Overall, this distributed edge concept or device edge concept is actually quite hard. Many manufacturers today or industrial companies today have all different types of hardware. Lots of hardware, different types of, I have one major customer in oil and gas. They went with one device, and then all of a sudden, after they went into production, end of life. And not just end of life, they're not making another device to replace it. So they have to go to a whole nother manufacturer. How do you do that? How do you manage that? And how do you have a seamless way to view that, update it, orchestrate it, deliver your applications? It's not easy. Number two, and Marilyn mentioned this, was the cybersecurity and the physical security. You will have a box that's now a much smaller framework. It is not in a rack. It's not mounted in. It's just sitting somewhere sometimes connected to something. You could easily unplug it, walk off. Well, you don't want to be able to allow someone to plug that into a monitor and a keyboard and all of a sudden get the data. You have to be able to secure that physically and from the data aspects as well. And really, when you're talking about the scale of edge computing, you get into companies that are deploying, and some of our customers, and I'll give one example today. On the far right side is it's a packaging machine. It's a company called Bobst. They're out of Switzerland. So they make these huge packaging machines that companies like Amazon use to package durable goods and print the labels, everything that's needed. They have thousands of these out at their customer sites, and they now have thousands of these industrial PCs running EVOS, which is an open source, lightweight Linux operating system to be able to provide connectivity remotely, to be able to deliver their applications, and to derive the benefits they need. These machines have to be up and running. Amazon won't be happy if one of these machines goes down. Right? There's a big change there, so they have to be able to deliver these solutions at scale. Thousands of devices, and this is just one company. All the different machine builders. Oil and gas is a great use case as well. Here you're drilling a well, so you have to understand, where are we going to put that well? Is there oil in that well? What's the best way to extract the oil, the most efficient way? How much oil is there? And they drop sensors into these wells. They're running multiple machines to connect and collect all this data. Make sense of it right there. They don't always have connectivity. That's the thing. If you have a cloud, that's great. But what if you lose connectivity? It's not just latency. Here you don't have any connection. Can you still complete the job? Can you get the data? Can you help to deliver the solutions that you need at the edge? All of these are changes, fundamental changes in how every company is looking at this today, because ultimately it's about bringing business value, which are outcomes that need to be provided for ROI reasons, for customer needs, for process efficiencies, all kinds of things that are important at the edge today. So ultimately, what have we done is we've created a solution to make it effortless, to make it easy, but also in a way that's very open and secure. It's all about deploying whatever app needs to be driven down, whatever workload. You shouldn't have to worry about, well, can I run an app in Tanzu, or can I run my old Windows legacy app? You should just think about, I need a solution to be able to deploy my applications, and I need to be able to access it over time. Also in a zero trust model, you don't have to deploy all these different solutions and have any kind of authentication and handshakes that aren't going to work. You really need to think about, how do I deploy that, make it so easy that you can just plug in the box, it turns on, it calls home, and it delivers the applications it needs, and any data connects to the clouds it needs to go. So you choose your clouds. Whatever cloud you want to have connected to, you can choose the cloud of your choice. You can choose multi-cloud technologies. It can be a premise-based cloud. It can be Azure cloud, whatever's needed. So enabling that. And what we do is we enable solutions that control plane. We're not in the data path. So we stay out of the security side of data, because it's ultimately using the applications you're deploying to connect to the cloud of choice, where you're going to store that data and how you're going to use that data. And then having visibility. So I think the other piece that's important, when you're going to orchestrate your solution, you need to have visibility. You need to see what's going on at any given time. Where are your devices located? If you have 10,000 gateways deployed, where are they? Are they up and running? How often do they connect in the network? Have they had any downtime? What applications are running there? What versions are there? And then when you want to deploy a new version of application, having it as easy as just setting up, I need to deploy this new version, having it sent out to 10,000 devices, at the timing you need, or all at once, depending on how your real-time environments are working, but having that with the touch of a button and being able to do that seamlessly. The other piece that's really important is anyone who's deploying at the edge today has to think about, how am I going to choose these applications? What am I going to use? I have a use case, I have different applications, I need to deploy SD-WAN, I need to deploy a firewall, an industrial IoT application that's going to extract and use that data, AI applications, ML applications, computer vision. There's so many different ones. So for your use case, Marilyn mentioned earlier, what's really important? Well, how about if you use that box, you have enough compute power there that you can add applications as you go. You're not limited. You don't have to send a new piece of hardware. Leverage what you already have and keep adding to it. And then you have a marketplace that you can select from and choose. Now I need this app. It's already been tested, it's ready to go. Push a button again, deploy it down, configure it, and it's working. Right? It's all about being seamless and easy at the edge, but also open and secure so that you can choose the platforms and solutions you need. So this is what we bring to the table in our partnership with VMware that you all can take advantage of and leverage at the device edge. All right, Marilyn, back to you.
Okay, so talking about all the benefits that we get from being able to OEM ZEDEDA's edge orchestration that we're making part of Edge Compute Stack. So I have a slide that summarizes, all the flavors of the Edge Compute Stack that you saw earlier. But what we're putting together not only with EVOS, which is open source, that gets us the operating system for the small hardware, which you see at the bottom, the embedded Linux. And then when we're putting together ZEDEDA's orchestration, but we're also putting in, of course, our own VMware software. So here we have our edge optimized version of Kubernetes that's going to be running on here to be able to deploy our container applications to it. We can also optionally deploy SD-WAN onto this box, onto these small form factor devices as well. So you can not only have your small applications, your containerized applications, your SD-WAN functionality, as well as the additional I/O access that EVOS gives us to the different types of hardware and sensors and devices that you can connect to the small hardware. And so we're at the point now we're ready to do this in beta. I've got plenty of looking to have more customers for the beta. We do have a few in the pipeline, and we really want to get this early feedback to really optimize what we're looking for, this kind of small footprint. And so I've got a QR code here today for the device edge beta, if you guys are interested. And we're also happy to talk to you guys. Yeah, it's one, okay. It'll be also on the website. So this is just kind of what we're looking for. If you're looking for that really small footprint, again, this is mostly for containerized applications only. If you want VMs and containers, of course, we've got our traditional vSphere offering. But yeah, we're looking to see how we can best optimize our VMware software in conjunction with the ZEDEDA platform too. And then if you're not just interested on the device edge aspects, but if you're interested of just taking advantage of trying out the edge optimized TKG platform, we're also looking for design partners on that as well. And this is also available for people to try today. Oh, I realize I don't have a QR code for this, but I can leave this on long enough for you guys to look at the URL. But as I mentioned, we've been on a journey the last year. I read somewhere that the moment you get sick of saying a word, you know that you're presenting it well. Edge optimize, edge optimize. So we've been on the last year to properly optimize our VMware stack for the edge. And so Tanzu is same thing, part of the device edge beta, but also if you're looking to just try a smaller footprint Kubernetes offering, we're also working on that in conjunction with the Tanzu team on the beta. Okay, and then kind of bringing everything all back together on a consistent portfolio. I think overall you kind of heard that solving for the edge is hard, right? There's so many different constraints and challenges and things that we have to solve for, different types of edges, different size edges, different use cases, the nuances and the applications that each vertical needs to handle. So we work very closely, like I was talking about from a solution perspective, the different ISVs and our different customers and all the different partners to really bring together all the complete solution for the edge across the different types of platforms, whether you need an enterprise edge, a network edge, or a device edge for the different use cases. And of course, we want to make sure that that has a consistent experience from deployment, from management, from pushing the applications to doing all of this, of course, in this different scale that we have to do. And then from our core platform, we also want to partner with our service providers who want to offer this as a managed service, or our hardware providers who want to provide this as a managed service. So we have to handle those bits. And then us ourselves at VMware building other services on top of this. So there's something we announced in the US that's also in beta now is private mobile network, which is being able to set up your own private 5G network for your own enterprise. And as well as a session I have later on this week. I know I talked a whole lot about real-time experiences, but the real-time experiences is all based on how you use that data at the edge. And so I have a session on how we handle edge data at the edge, and also other services that we can provide on top. Okay. So just a little bit on what else is available for Edge here. So I've got my other session on data. If you're more interested in hearing about how we do software-defined manufacturing, that's actually later today. Actually, that's next here, it's tomorrow, sorry. Tomorrow, 3 to 4. And then if you want to hear about the reference architecture, we've got our Meet the Experts. And then if you have any other questions or want to engage with us, we're very happy to talk with any of you guys, and I've got my email alias there for us. All right, well, thank you everyone for the time, and I will open it up here for Q&A, or I'll stay back and we're happy to answer any questions that you guys might have or like. All right, thank you.